Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El Rome.
And I'm Erin Viner.
In our lead story, Israel's international status is flourishing. The Jewish state is constantly improving its diplomatic ties with countries around the world, despite the Palestinian Authority's attempts to boycott Israel in the international arena. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stressed this fact during an unprecedented visit to the Holy Land by the President of Chad. This was the first official mission by a leader of the Central African nation since it severed diplomatic ties with Israel in 1972. President Idris Deby made it clear that his visit was an effort to restore diplomatic relations with the Jewish state. Prime Minister Netanyahu hailed President Deby's visit as a diplomatic breakthrough that comes in response to Israel's continued efforts to restore ties with Chad. Netanyahu's office later released a statement saying the premier would travel to Chad in the coming weeks to announce the full restoration of diplomatic relations with the majority Muslim nation. Other Arab countries are also reaching out, expressing their interest in establishing contact with the Jewish state. Israeli media reported that both Sudan and Bahrain were working to strengthen ties with Jerusalem.
Israel has agreed with Greece, Italy, and Cyprus to construct the world's longest underwater pipeline, which will carry natural gas from the eastern Mediterranean Sea to Europe. The Deep Sea East Med Pipeline project will begin 170 kilometers off the southern coast of Cyprus and stretch 2,200 kilometers to Italy. It will be able to transport up to 20 billion cubic meters of fuel each year. Jerusalem intends to use several vast underwater natural gas reserves discovered off the country's coastline to help Europe meet ever-increasing demands for the precious resource. Jerusalem is also hoping that the export will have a positive environmental impact and that it can improve Israel's diplomatic standing abroad.
Israeli Defense Forces held a major drill preparing for the likely scenario of fighting on several fronts simultaneously. The Army released a statement saying that the Israeli military's Commando Brigade launched a large-scale exercise to practice fighting the Hamas terror group in Gaza and Hezbollah terrorist militias in Lebanon at the same time. The highly publicized maneuvers are meant to send a message of deterrence to Israel's enemies that the Jewish state is prepared for such conflicts. Elite soldiers from the Duv Devan, Maglan, and Egoz units cooperated with the Israeli Air Force during the 10-day exercise.
The president of the Czech Republic paid a visit to the Jewish state, where he inaugurated a cultural center in Jerusalem. Miloš Zeman said that the Czech House will host diplomatic meetings, as well as investment, trade, and tourism-related strategy sessions. He added that the opening is the next step in the relocation of Prague's embassy to the Israeli capital. During his address to the Knesset, the visiting leader vowed to not only move the compound to Jerusalem, but to also continue his defense of Israel in the international arena.
Terrorists belonging to ISIS have seized an Iranian shipment of advanced weapons meant for Hamas in Gaza. According to a report in a Kuwaiti newspaper, the Islamic State operating in the Sinai Peninsula confiscated a large shipment of precision-guided weapons from Iran to Hamas. The weapons include lethal laser-guided Kornet missiles and other sophisticated GPS-guided weaponry.
Israeli police arrested 32 Arabs in Jerusalem on charges that they had enlisted in the Palestinian Authority's armed forces. Several of the men hold Israeli citizenship and collect national insurance benefits from the Jewish state. The detentions were reportedly part of a larger sting operation aimed at exposing unlawful PA activities within the nation's borders. Searches of the suspects' homes uncovered stockpiles of illegal weapons and ammunition, as well as thousands of shekels in cash.
Israel's supporters around the world are calling to boycott Airbnb after it delisted some 200 holiday rentals in the Jewish heartland. The online rental marketplace is facing a class action lawsuit for discrimination after it announced that residents in Judea and Samaria will be excluded from listing their properties on the service. An Israeli lawyer said Airbnb is abusing its monopolistic power by outrageously discriminating against Jews in Judea and Samaria. Guy Ophir challenged Airbnb to a legal battle by purchasing the domain name Airbnb West Bank, and he vowed to list all of the properties affected by the company's boycott. The vice mayor of Beverly Hills, California, joined the calls to correct this injustice and announced that Airbnb is no longer welcome in his city. The Beverly Hills City Council passed a resolution condemning Airbnb and announced a boycott of its service. They released a statement saying, "We call on all civilized people across the globe to boycott Airbnb until such time as they desist from this despicable anti-Semitic action." Additionally, Ron DeSantis of Florida became the first governor to ban state employees from using Airbnb with state funds. Florida is one of 26 U.S. states that have anti-BDS legislation.
The Palestinian Authority has sentenced 2 Arab men to serve 15 years of hard labor for selling land to Jews. The PA has declared all property sales to Jews a crime that can be punishable by death. Just a few weeks ago, an Arab American citizen was kidnapped and detained for his role in facilitating the sale of a home in Jerusalem's Old City to Jewish buyers. Muslim religious leaders have issued a fatwa declaring that any Arab caught selling land to a Jew is a traitor who should be excommunicated from the community. The Internal Security Agency, known as the Shin Bet, has released details of an attempt by Hamas to perpetrate a terror attack in Israel. A cell was operating out of Arab towns in Judea and Samaria under the command of senior Hamas leaders in Gaza. A sick Arab woman allowed into Israel for medical treatment was used to pass communications to the terrorists. The discovery of the plot exposed major efforts by the Islamist faction to exploit Jerusalem's good faith practice of providing life-saving medical care to Palestinians who are then recruited as terror operatives. Arabs allowed into Israel for humanitarian reasons are given lessons in espionage and, in some cases, even explosives training.
A German auction house is selling the Nazi sword that Heinrich Himmler gave to the Mufti of Jerusalem. Not many people realize that Arabs collaborated with the Nazis and planned their own version of the final solution for the Jews living in pre-state Israel. The Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, Hajj Muhammad Amin al-Husseini, had a personal relationship with Adolf Hitler. During his visit to Germany in March of 1943, SS Commander Heinrich Himmler gave the Mufti a token of their friendship with wishes of success in fighting what he called the Jewish invaders. The sword is made of Damascus steel and is engraved with 2 swastikas and the emblem of the SS. The inscription reads, "To the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, Hajj Muhammad Amin al-Husseini, with loyal friendship, the Reichsfuhrer."
A Dutch Christian boatmaker wants to bring his replica of Noah's Ark to Israel. Johan Hubers followed measurements recorded in the Book of Genesis to construct a 390-foot-long, 25-yard-high ark, which towers over many modern-day cruise ships. The vessel has been on display in the Netherlands in Hubers' efforts to spread God's word to his countrymen. He said that he's hoping its next journey will be to the Jewish state because it only makes sense to take his copy of God's ship to God's land.
An American-born rabbi has created an ingenious way of providing emergency responders with accurate, first-hand information during times of crisis. The Guardian Angel device, named Gabriel, can stream live video and audio feeds to emergency personnel, providing first responders with eyes and ears to unfolding events. When activated, the Gabriel Smart Panic button contacts emergency services and activates cameras, microphones, and sensors. Gabriel's creator, Yoni Sherazan, said this technology is designed to cut the chaos in active shooter and terror situations and hopefully save lives by reducing confusion. Named after the biblical guardian angel Gabriel, the Smart Alert system will be installed in 25 locations throughout the United States in the coming weeks.
Dozens of Israelis are on the ground in California to provide aid to hundreds of people left devastated by the state's wildfires. The Israeli technology firm WaterGen sent its machines that are capable of producing clean drinking water out of thin air to quench the thirst of firefighters and first responders. The IsraAid disaster relief NGO has established a base in Chico focused on helping the victims foster community resilience. Israeli humanitarian workers are sorting clothing donations, cooking in soup kitchens, and providing support at every level to assist in California's recovery efforts. So far this year, IsraAid has also sent teams to Florida and North Carolina, as well as the Philippines, Indonesia, India, Kenya, and Guatemala.
Israel paid tribute to the Jewish refugees that were expelled from Arab lands and Iran. On November 30th, the Jewish state honored more than 800,000 Jews who were forced from their homes in Muslim countries by educating the public about the programs, persecution, imprisonment, and the execution of Jewish community leaders. Their expulsion led to the destruction of dozens of ancient Jewish communities which had thrived in the Middle East for thousands of years. The victims and their descendants say it is an injustice that the Arab world refuses to recognize their expulsion and to make reparations for Jewish property that was seized.
Israeli archaeologists excavating an ancient church in the Negev desert have uncovered a previously unknown painting of Jesus and John the Baptist. It was found at a monastery in the Byzantine city of Shifta by a team working with the University of Haifa's Zinman Institute of Archaeology. Jesus is depicted as a young, curly-haired Semite. Experts say that the discovery is highly significant because it reveals a new perspective of him held by the earliest Christians. And its placement, high on the walls of an adjoining chapel to the church, leads them to believe that the painting actually portrays the baptism of Jesus.
God's Word continues to shine forth from Jerusalem and inspire people around the world. The Jewish State's International Bible Competition, held every Independence Day in the Holy Land, has gone on tour and has taken Africa by storm. The quiz draws contestants from all over the world to compete in their knowledge of the Bible, and for the first time, the competition was held in Angola and Nigeria. The contest finale was broadcast on Angolan television and was judged by Israel's ambassador to the African nation, along with members of Israel's Ministry of Education. The winner of the competition was awarded a free trip to Israel, where he will be attending a Bible camp. Christians and Jews view this phenomenon as the fulfillment of Isaiah's prophecy, which says, "For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem."
That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host Josh Reinstein, and we're here on a beautiful sunny day in Jerusalem on our rooftop studio. My guest today is member of Knesset Eliza Lavi. Eliza, thank you for being on the show.
Hi, thank you.
Eliza, you're a member of Knesset here in the Parliament of Israel, but what's unique also is that you're an author and you wrote an incredible book, a huge seller on Random House through Amazon, called The Jewish Woman's Prayer Book. Tell us about the book.
Actually, it's a collection of women's prayer during the ages. I found that Jewish women during the periods that they did, when they didn't know even Hebrew, we are talking about the public sphere, that the boys knew how to speak with the Creator, with the holy tongue, with the Hebrew, and women didn't, unfortunately, and they wanted to speak with the Creator in your most intimate moment in your life, when you want to pray and you want to speak with the Creator, with Lord. You have to do it in your own words. So what I found that women, they didn't know Hebrew during the periods 2,000 years ago, so they create for themselves prayers in their own language. We are talking about Yiddish, Ladino, Jewish Arabic, in our days, of course, Germany, English. And what I did, I found them and collect them together with a lot of information about the women, about the time, about the spiritual leaders that helped them at that time. And actually it's become bestseller here in Israel and also in the States.
It's unbelievable because you're actually an Orthodox woman, you're in a secular party, but your book is being bought by Orthodox Jews, Reform Jews, Conservative Jews, and Christians. How are you able to go across the board and have a message that unites everyone?
Especially with the Christian community, I have an unbelievable dialogue, and what I found, Josh, is people are people, women are women in all over the world. We share same values, and all of us want to have a better world for our children and grandchildren, and for ourselves as women, as citizens, as people of Israel, you know. So what I found out that we share some values, and I think that together with these prayers we can have a better world for ourselves.
Yeah, you don't just pray, you act. You're also a member of the Knesset Christian Allies Caucus, and you're leading in the Knesset relations with Christians, what we call faith-based diplomacy, and getting Christians involved in defending Israel around the world. Why is it important to you to reach out to Christians to get political support?
Actually, this is an opportunity to thank you, Josh, and your people, actually, the Christian community all over the world, especially, of course, in Europe and in the States. We know that we all work together for our same values, as I said, for better day. And thank to our friends in the Christian caucus, in the Christian parties. I lead the committee in the Europe Council as a parliamentarian from the Israeli parliament. And thank to our friends, the Christian parliaments from Zurich, Germany, France, other countries, we can make it, you know, our situation. We are only affiliate, we even can't put note on the agenda. So thanks to our friends from the Christian community, we can, you know, speak loudly. And this is how we work together in the region, other countries, thanks to your people.
You know, we've seen Christian support in America, and now with the recent election in Brazil, evangelicals are getting involved. Of course, in Australia now they're talking about moving the embassy because of Christian support. Are you seeing this in Europe? Are Christians uniting behind the message of Israel?
This is my request, that the Christian community will unite. This is the time to be united and work together. You know, I'm privileged. I was born here in this amazing, amazing city in Jerusalem. I raised my kids and my grandchildren here in this amazing, amazing country in Israel, in Zion. And what I want, you know, to tell the people that sometimes don't judge us. You know, Israel, criticism all the time. But I think that the Christian community know how to help us and understand that in this time we have to be united and work together.
You did something this year that people didn't think was possible, and that's unite Christians in Norway, one of the most liberal countries in Europe, and create a Norwegian Israel Allies Caucus. There were 1,400 Christians at the Opera House in Oslo supporting Israel. Was that something that you foresaw, or is it a surprise that this is happening?
When the Speaker of the House of the Israeli Parliament, Yuli Edelstein, called me the other day and asked me to build a bridge, to do something with Norwegian, and I say to myself, how can I start? You know, how can I start after, you know, I try to build bridge to find a partner there, but I couldn't find. And what we did, thanks to the Christian party, we established a very strong bridge, and via that I hope that the contacts between the two parliaments will be much more strong. Yeah, the occasion that you spoke, I mean, it was really something amazing in the opera there, and we came together and we had opportunity to speak about our activities, about Jerusalem, about the Israeli parliament, about the people of Israel. Sometimes, you know, via the media it's hard to understand the situation here, but come to Israel. This is a amazing time to visit us and to understand the picture from here.
There are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
We have an amazing country. I mean, this is the Holy Land. Please come visit us. You have ability here to hear, listen, smell the history where everything was started, our mothers, our fathers, all our history. So come to Israel, understand the whole picture, and support us.
Thank you, Lisa, for being on the show. and thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
Up next, the return to Zion with Karen Hayesod.
Shalom and welcome to the Return to Zion with Karen Hayesod. I'm Eliezer Moody Sandberg, World Chairman of Karen Hayesod, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Aliyah is the secret to the success of the modern State of Israel. Let's take a look at stories of people coming back home to Israel from around the world and see how they helped shape our great nation.
For 2,000 years, through some of the darkest chapters in history, the Jewish people have dreamt of returning home to the land of Israel. During the last century, this dream has become a reality. Millions of Jewish people from every corner of the earth have arrived in the land of their forefathers. They have brought to life Zechariah's prophecy, "I will return to Zion and dwell in Jerusalem." Many have landed on Israel's shores with little more than faith and hope in their hearts. But with the help of Karen Hayesod, they have built happy homes and successful lives. And some of these new arrivals have become the leaders and pioneers building the future of the Jewish state. Sofa Landver was born in Soviet Russia in 1949, just as the Cold War was taking its grip on the world. Any public display of Judaism could prove dangerous. But Landver was determined to reach the Jewish homeland and eventually arrive in Israel in 1979. She has since dedicated herself to public service, becoming a Knesset member in 1996. Landver is currently Minister of Aliyah and Integration, helping Jews across the world make their home in the Jewish state.
בשנת 79 הגעתי לכאן, נסגר מסך הברזל, אני זוכרת מה אני עברתי במדינה שלי. זה לא פשוט לעזוב בית ולהגיע למדינה ולהתחיל את הצעדים הראשונים ולהתקדם יחד עם משפחה, יחד עם חברים, ללמוד שפה. אבל כל בן אדם עובר את זה, ולפחות רק כאן הוא מרגיש זה הבית.
Michael Oren grew up in the freedom of New York, but he too felt the burning desire to return home to Israel, emigrating alone in 1979. Despite having no family in Israel, he fought as a paratrooper during the 1982 Lebanon War. Oren then built a glittering academic career, becoming one of Israel's leading thinkers, commentators, and authors. His prominence led Oren's appointment as Israel's ambassador to the United States in 2009, Israel's most important diplomat. Oren continues to guide Israel's future as a member of parliament today.
Israel is the nation state of the Jewish people. We need to band together to assist those who are the neediest, help absorb those who want to move to the state of Israel, to be repatriated to their ancestral homeland, and the integration process for them will be challenging. And today I'm immensely proud to be part of that continuing epic story of your involvement, of our involvement in making the Zionist dream not just a reality, but a shining reality.
Another Israeli ambassador to return to their country of birth is Belenish Zavadia. Zavadia was rescued from a remote village as a young child, arriving in Israel with no family, facing a strange new life all alone. Having graduated Hebrew University, she embarked on a diplomatic career. Zavadia has served the country across the world and incredibly returned to Ethiopia as Israel's ambassador in 2012.
הייתה לי הרגשה מעורבת. מצד אחד אני עוזבת את המשפחה שלי באתיופיה כי באתי לבד. ובצד שני כל הזמן אבא שלנו והמשפחה שלי, כל הדורות חלמו להגיע לארץ ישראל, למדינת ישראל, והחלום שלי הולך להתגשם. אני מכירה את קרן הייסוד טוב מאוד את העזרה שלהם, את התמיכה שלהם. הם מפעילים את אולפן הציון. משם למדתי את העברית הבסיסית. עם זה הלכתי לאוניברסיטה, עם זה עד עכשיו, זה מה שמשמש אותי. זה מה שבנה אותי.
From Russia, United States, and Ethiopia, Sofa Landver, Michael Oren, and Elena Zavadia represent a true ingathering of the exiles, as envisaged in scriptures. Jeremiah's prophecy, "Your children will return to their borders," is happening before our eyes. And with your support, you can ensure that Keren Hayesod helps many more make the journey home to Israel, guaranteeing that the dream of 2,000 years continues.
Let's bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, call us at 1-800-505-1665 or visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
The Palestinian Authority has increasingly achieved state-like status within the UN. Sometimes it's referred to as Vatican-like status, sometimes referred to as Swiss-like status within the United Nations. United Nations bodies and countries which support granting the Palestinian Authority such a status say that it's largely a symbolic move that is not designed to threaten the state of Israel. They are categorically wrong. The Palestinian Authority is striving to achieve this status not for innocent reasons, not even to achieve a better two-state solution or peace arrangement. The Palestinian Authority is attempting to achieve this state-like status in order to take Israel down. Why does it want the status? Because the Palestinian Authority wants to sue Israel in the International Criminal Court for war crimes. And in order to sue Israel for war crimes in the International Criminal Court, the Palestinian Authority must have the status of a state. Only a state can sue another state within the International Criminal Court. And what does the Palestinian Authority hope to achieve in these lawsuits? Again, not a better peace arrangement, not even a two-state solution. The Palestinian Authority wants to boycott the state of Israel. It wants to sanction the state of Israel. It wants to eliminate Israel's legitimacy to defend itself or even to exist as a sovereign Jewish state. Far from being an innocent diplomatic maneuver, far from being a symbolic gesture, the Palestinian Authority's attempt to achieve state-like status within the UN presents a long-term and serious strategic threat to Israel's security and ultimately even to our existence.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.